I'll just read the top section of this real quick. Notice is hereby given that the Park and Recreation Advisory Board of the City of Alpine, Texas will hold a meeting at 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, March 8th, 2023 at City Council Chambers for the purpose of considering the attached agenda. This notice is posted pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act. Action items approved at this meeting will go to the City Council for consideration. So we will go ahead and call this meeting to order and move on to step 2, determination of quorum and proof of notice of the meeting. So we do have every single member here, which is pretty awesome. So that is complete. We'll move on to 3 citizen comments. Any citizen comments? Looks like no on that one. So we will move to step 4, approval of minutes of the previous meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I move to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay. Any discussion?
Nope.
Discussion? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It is unanimous. Okay, so we will go ahead and move into agenda item 5, information and discussion items. So we'll go ahead and start with A, that is the update from Keep Alpine Beautiful. So I spoke with Adelina and they had 2 updates. One is a cleanup on March 18th. They'll be cleaning up the east side of town over there. And I think she's trying to get a hold of some National Honor Society students at AISD to kind of help on that one. That'll be on March 18th.
Did you say where on the east side then?
I'm wondering if it's the entrance where the sign is. I think they've had it there before, but she on Facebook, they do have the event. So it's probably got more information there. And then the second item there is going to be Earth Day, April 22nd. That Saturday is going to be an Earth Day event and it will be at the farmer's market. And there's a Facebook event on that one as well. If anyone wants to show, that will also be Spirits of the West weekend. So I think we're hoping that there will be some people in town and a good showing down there for the farmer's market as well.
Right.
So those are the updates from Keep Alpine Beautiful. We'll move on to B, the update from Big Bend Parks and Recreation for Kids.
All right, don't have a ton of updates for you guys. We are going to be working with the city to go to they're planning on holding a community meeting to at Pueblo Nuevo, probably mid-April, to talk about like what kind of theme they want for their playground, like pirates or whatever. And then we want to tag along to that meeting just so we can talk about what we might fundraise for, whether they want shade, whether they want a zip line, like what kind of thing that they would like to add to the playground. So that's moving forward for Pueblo Nuevo, and we are hopping on the Earth Day celebration and doing a fundraiser with that. Yeah, that's about it.
Do they have a date on the March Pueblo Nuevo groundbreaking? I know
The
that
groundbreaking, I believe, is the 23rd.
3rd at 5:30.
March 23rd. And I'm assuming after work. Or-
5:30.
Sure. March 23rd, 5:30 p.m. Pueblo Nuevo. Very cool. We'll see that project going. All right, then we'll move into C, the update from the Alpine Parks Department with Mr. Yanes. Any updates from the city park? Yes, sir.
Well, we've just been. You've been busy, but I've got these papers that we look that you can look through them, and there's most of the stuff that we do all week, the past 3 weeks. Right now, I'm currently trying to get some quotes for the to replace the light bulbs at the Little League field and to repair a whole lamp, a whole pole, because it got fried. And I'm looking for some quotes. They're going to be expensive.
Which park is that, or where's that at?
At the Little League field. And there's 3 of them that need to be replaced, 3 poles, and there's about 10 bulbs that are out. And the one that got fried, I don't know if the ballast is any good or the lamps are any good, so I'm gonna have to get an electrician to check the balance and stuff like that, the ballast. But no, I mean, we rewired, we've refenced the chain link fence to the International Manual Paint and did Lujan, and Lujan, we repaired some the gates, both of the gates. And welded back where it broke off. We had to, tie it together, pull it together and welded it. And we've been keeping busy. The guys were at the American Legion dragging the field, cleaning it from all
Yeah, yeah.
that
I heard
stuff.
about that.
And we had some leak. We had a leak at Medina. We got another one at the same place, and then we had one at Baines. The one at Baines was only a foot of its topsoil, and everything else is mountain. So that was a pain. But no, they got it done.
And the Little League field, is that Payne and International or?
No, it's separate. That's because Payne and International are side by side, right? And this other one's across behind the big field.
Gotcha, the one closer to the radio?
Yes, sir.
Or-
Yeah.
Right. I guess, and just as a side question on that, does the park system have a help desk system? Like, how do y'all? How is that communicate, if lights are out, how does that get communicated to you guys?
If the lights are out,
Yeah, like when say the bathroom had an issue or the lights were out or something needed to.
oh, they usually call the PD, and the PD calls us.
Let's call
Yeah. And then they come in home.
They call you home. And does that ever get in? Because when I actually see something like this, and I'm wondering, is there a help desk system or something like that where you have tickets? Because I go into city council meetings, we hear and they had the water department has so many tickets and the gas department has so many tickets.
Oh, work orders. Yeah.
Do those get called up to the front office typically and then shot over or?
Sometimes, so if they're not calling over directly or calling PD, they call it here to report it. Then our admin assistant for the streets and parks creates the work order and keeps track.
Gotcha.
We're trying to get everyone to funnel it through here so we can keep track of all the times there's an issue so that, we know how many work orders they actually do.
Yeah, that's what
Makes sense.
would justify your labor cost.
That's quite a bit. That's quite a bit of work. Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
And usually with the water leaks, they'll call the water department first because it's water.
Right.
Then water department will say that's water. It's great.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Yanez or?
Just appreciation.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Welcome. Thank you.
Then we will move into item P, discussion with Mr. Andy Ramos to Tuesday Parks task. So I guess, Mr. Ramos, have you kind of had time to look through those and see and
Yeah.
show you the some of them that were available?
Okay, park activities.
Park activity.
Yeah.
So that,
Number eight.
the number 8. And that one is study the implementation of park activities to be held in city parks and investigate the feasibility of revenue generating activities.
Right.
So the one that no one chose is park prioritization, which probably all the anyway. That's good. All righty, we'll put you on. And so Mr. Ramos, we each chose one of those, and then after the meetings, we kind of do our research and everything else on our own outside of those meetings, and we
Right.
come back and just
Okay,
talk about what we have.
not a problem.
And we'll move into item E unless anyone had questions on E. Item E is updates from the board on individual task objectives. So start with Ms. Cantrell on number 1, park rules.
Okay, I'm trying to get a draft together because there's one page in the code of ordinances for park rules. It only covers 3 parks. And the times on those are different and the no alcohol theme seems to run between all of them. Also, the signs on the parks. A majority of them have the same sign with it's just a metal sign with the name of the park on a band in the middle. And it states opening and closing, no alcohol, dog must be on a leash. But Coconut does not have those signs. And so as part of the park rules, I want to present this to Geo and try to consolidate the rules into maybe a single section and say Alpine City Park rules and then list the city parks and then the rules after that. So we'll see how that goes out. I'll have that ready by next meeting.
Nice. So instead of having individual park rules, we would have city park rules.
Right, I think that's, if you want, they should all be the same. It's kind of confusing as it is now. And some say dawn to dusk. That changes every year, every day, actually, but, and then some say 8 to 10, 8 to 10:30. So when you start these things, these be standardized.
And if, am I allowed to say something?
Absolutely.
I'm different to the rules. But I think that's a great idea to have the general ones that apply to any, and then if you do find, hey, this park, because it has whatever, a basketball court or baseball field, this one needs something specific, then you can call that out.
Right,
But
then you
it
can
gives you,
state why it's. specific.
yeah, exactly.
I agree.
So you'll start with the baseline rules and then come back to anything that needs. to be-
Right.
Right, and I'm sure we'll find that out pretty well from the citizens and other things.
As a side question for Megan on this, is there since you've been here for a while on it, is there any historical context of how those got put into the ordinance, the park ordinances? Why they were specifically mentioned certain parks as opposed to some blanket park rule?
I think it was, I can remember and gather. The parks that were used the most. So, the parks that had the heavy traffic, they wanted to address those specifically. Coconut has always been, it's like the main park for Alpine, and so that one was specifically called. And then Medina and Bank started to pick up traffic and those became heavier used. The Legion has never been fully developed as a park. I called it Bedrock for the longest time. It made me think of a bedrock, like the Flintstones. But now it's being used more, so I think it's a great idea to have general for all. And then because we have specific uses for like Coconut and then festivities, activities like that, and we call those exceptions.
Right.
Question on the Legion Park, is that, what kind of activities are taking place there?
So we do have the little league. field.
Really practice fields?
Okay,
So they use it for practice. I do know that people have gone more to like rocket around it and all that. There was a goat head infestation for a while and it wasn't really playable. You couldn't run around. It was designed more for people to kind of sit back and relax. So there's the gazebo and enjoy, but then of course they have the fields and now that's all picking up.
okay, good.
I don't know if the population over there has changed, like there's more children. But it's definitely been utilized.
Yeah, because I helped work on it years ago, you know, with the gazebo and all that, and it was supposed to be mainly like a little baseball field for kids. And then all of a sudden that changed and benches were put in place and the fields got smaller. And then I'd see people walk around, that's all I'd see up there.
I know that the Adelina brought it to me and I can't remember how else. Blocks, possibly moving some of the boulders around
Mhm.
to make it a little bit more usable.
Mhm.
I know there was an issue with parking at one point. People were, and I think that's why a lot of the boulders were put where they were to do what they're doing at Pueblo Nuevo and
Park in the park, yes.
But people are actively interested in it because they're
Good.
coming up with, hey, how can we improve it? How can we change it?
Yeah, because it's lay dormant for quite a few years, you know.
Poor guys have to water and maintain.
Yeah. Okay,
One other item I would kind of add in on it would be, so if, I guess if Megan could speak to when the budget will start being itemized for next year. And like, I like Karen's idea of having those signs standardized across the parks. So we're kind of tasked with the research side of all that. It'd be great to see some, final action on it of something like that, of putting those signs in or anything else. And we're dealing with last year's budget that was already figured out. So I'm wondering, is it possible to, with some of the items that we see in here, to have funds that would kind of
to plan, when in the budget process would we be able to look into those items to kind of have money for those things?
Well, now it's on my list. We just tried it.
Signage.
So I'm gonna take a different approach with budgeting this year, only because I've seen how the city has functioned for so long, and I would like to make it more specific. I know that the poor park guys have kind of a catch-all line item, and once it's out, they're kind of like, well, now what do we do? But we're gonna focus more on performance and projects, not just buckets of money. And so adding a line item that specifically says signage is something we can do.
This might be tied into I like the idea of us having our directives and stuff like that. And so some of that labor is offset onto us. And if we're doing a proper good job, then at the end of that, having the ability to actualize that through the budget at the end would be great.
And it's kind of the whole point of like the strategic plan is so that you can pinpoint how everything's planned. And then if you can ask, if you don't see the sign, but you see the money gone in the budget, you're like, hey, wait a minute, what happened here? There's no sign, so.
As well, I think that's good too. Like I've had a person talk about the groundhogs and stuff that you have to deal with all the time over at the field over there.
Right.
And if that's never going to get fixed until there's money to fix it. So if council says that's one of our 9 items that we want to have to fix next year, then it would be put into the budget so that it could actually happen. So the council, gets goal oriented.
When it's you see the accomplishment, not that it's just whether it's successful or not is up to you.
Whether it will take. Any other comments on park rules? Then we'll move into number 2, Mr. Struthers, for festivals and event permitting.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as productive as Karen. Most of it's in my head, similar to what I said last time. I usually am down and be able to discuss it with Megan or Gio. But that did cause a question to come to mind for you. If in this process of the festivals and event permitting, we say, hey, there's appropriate amount of fees to charge for whatever, is it possible to direct those fees into the park's budget directly, or is that not allowable?
So yes and no. All the fees in that come under the general fund are allocated across the board. Unless the ordinance or something specifically says it's going to be put into a reserved account dedicated to the parks, basic fees go just in.
Gotcha.
And it will show in the Parks Department as revenue, but the revenue is applied to all departments.
So when we look at the budget and we see Civic Center revenue and full revenue, because I think those fall under parks and right. So those still go into the general fund of dollars. They're not earmarked for parks. Gotcha.
So the general fund operates like a business, not company. We're not in it for profit. So when we balance the budget, it doesn't matter how much each department really is spending. It just has to match those revenues, and those revenues, about 75% this year is property tax and sales tax. And then the rest is just the fees. So the PD and the court may collect more fees than the park. And that's going to cover parks expenses or vice versa.
Okay.
That is kind of the.
Yeah, it's just total dollars in has to equal total dollars out. Okay, thanks. That's really all I had.
Perfect. Any questions for?
Nope.
Ken? All right, then we'll move on to number 3, rental fees. This is the one I was tasked with. So I met with Eddie Molinar and kind of went over just the idea in my head is how long does it take to get Coconut Pavilion ready for an event? How long does it take to break down? And when we know that time, we can kind of extrapolate that at $20 per hour or whatever else for 2 people, kind of see the cost. So went over those items with them, and I guess a couple of things that I saw was, let's see. The pavilion, he said, is really only about an hour to set up and break down. I think he said there's 2 employees. Most of what it is just cleaning up the trash and, verifying everything, making sure it's kind of all set up, and then coming back in, verifying it at the start and then cleaning up trash at the end. So I said not a ton of labor on all that. That is $50 or no, $25 right now for the entire day, I believe.
So the $25 does not include the person who's hosting the event to clean up the trash.
Correct. I think the city does that.
There is no requirements for the, it's $25. They have access to electricity, the park in general and the pavilion. And then the guys, and most of the time it will be overtime, will go and
It's really.
And why can't we
inexpensive, too.
pass those fees on to whoever rents the place?
that's why we're doing what.
Right.
Okay, that's good, because, yeah, right.
In that case, no.
Labor. You know, the city does pay trash. And Robert can speak up to it more than I can, but I know after I've gone to an event, the trash isn't just pertaining to the few dumpsters that are by the pavilion. I've seen it where there's trash
Scattered.
everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah, so it does take a little bit of.
A couple other things he had said on that as well. So we're getting $25 right now. So if it is 1 hour for two people, then, you know, we're not breaking even on that. So I'll probably recommend a raise in that one. The other thing he had kind of mentioned was lunch reservations. We had thought about, you know, breaking it into 8 to 12 and 1 to 5 or something like that. So you can double the opportunity to get revenue from that day.
Right.
But some people may want to be there 10 to 2, right there in the middle of the day. So kind of figuring out what we think about that, because quinceañeras or birthday parties or whatever else on something like that. And, you know, I think when we're looking at the price too, we could look at the opportunity cost of it. Like if it's in high demand, then we could get more, you know, just to, you know, we're not trying to profit off the thing, but I can't recall if he had said if it was the pavilion or the civic center that I don't think prices had been raised in 7 to 8 years.
I know the pavilion has not been raised in a very long time. Well, at least 10, because it hasn't been raised since I've been here. The Civic Center has been a unique up and down. It used to be everyone kind of paid the same, and then they broke it down for government, nonprofit, and regular citizen. Those have fluctuated a little bit, including like the deposit, the hourly rate, security fees have gone up and down.
It might be interesting if we can find out the last time it was actually raised, we could just tie that into inflation and see what that current dollar would be
Right.
and then go down from there. On it, at least we have a base price of what, you know, was okay in the past. And now we could come back in and see, you know, if it's palatable to the public.
Yeah, well, we need to look at, like we did at the Legion, we looked at all the rental places around for events. And we went up on our price to be competitive. You know, and it pays for our maintenance people to go in and clean up and whatnot. And also where rents it has a shared responsibility in cleaning it. Okay, and helping our folks to clean it up and whatnot.
Darren, to touch on something you just said, you were using increments of 4 hours. Why not just make it blanket 4 hours, whatever 4 hours you want to use it for, and say $50, you know, something like that. That's still cheap, you know? At least to help pay for some of their effort, you know, because working with trash all day long, I know how difficult it is and how messy it can be.
Mhm.
So I think just, you know, just 4 hour increments, whatever 4 hours they want, this is what it's going to cost. And then you could schedule around that. At 10 to 2, there's still an afternoon they could go, you know, so that could be twice a day.
And I just want to say, I think there should be more accountability for the person, whoever's renting.
Absolutely.
I mean, they can't be leaving the place trash. I don't know how often it is trashed, but like they should be
Absolutely.
cleaning up and they should be doing very little cleaning
I agree.
of the pavilion. Like it needs to be pretty much clean and they're like emptying the trash cans. They should not be walking around the field
Right.
picking up the trash. Like after like last year's Easter,
Mhm.
they had that like Easter egg hunt in the park. There were candy wrappers all over that park
Right.
forever. And like that should have been part of having an event there. Should be,
Whoever hosted
yeah,
the event.
yeah, just like cleaning it up afterwards and taking care of the parks.
And I think that should be written into, when they sign a contract to
Right.
rent it out.
Right.
And they
That
should
should
be
be part of
charged
it.
more, like if Robert gets there and the park is not clean or the space is not taken care of, they should be charged
Right.
for that. for the extra labor that.
I agree.
So
It's
so
going
I'm gonna. So when they do
Sorry, that's a festival.
that's the.
Yeah.
No, no, I'm just saying that that's perfectly ties into kind of what he's been assigned to work on. So there is no permission.
They
Because
just
the
do.
park is public and you can have events and things in there. But like you said, there's no accountability. So you have large parties there and no one cares about the trash because
Right.
someone else will take care of it. Having that tied back with the festivals, that would be considered a festival or a big event. And then the accountability could be tied to it. Right now, there are no accountabilities for me.
Correct.
The 5Ks, when they have a 5K that involves the park,
Mhm.
there's no accountability.
So to drive that permitting process or whatever reservation for that section.
Even if there's not a cost attached to it, there is a signed accountable person saying, I will.
I'm
ensure that I
responsible.
respect-" Yeah,
That's good, yes.
It's got to be a balance. That's definitely something I've thought about because we want to encourage people to use the parks. We all benefit from the events. It's what makes it a great community to live in. So we don't want to make the fee itself,
That's why I say
exorbitant,
it
but
could be maybe attached.
that's why I like the responsibility and, hey, if you didn't uphold your end of the bargain for this, you did put down a deposit, so it's whatever, $200 or
Yeah.
whatever amount you
And
determine.
that's basically what we've done. We charge, ours is $500 if you're a non-member. It's $300 to rent it, $200 to cleanup fee. If you clean it up the way you found it,
Yeah.
you get your $200 back. So people are more encouraged, hey, we need to clean it up to get $200 back,
Absolutely.
especially in today's economy. So it's worked out great for us. And people do get out there and they'll come and clean it up, mop it up and whatnot. So I think that should be, when someone wants to rent it, okay, this is your rental fee. This is your deposit. Your deposit will be forwarded to the cleanup unless you really do a great job, however it wants to be worded,
Listen.
then you get it back. And that's just an incentive for them.
Agree.
So that is the pavilion. Come back and look at some of those things. A little homework of the next one. Talked about the pool just briefly, but the pool, Megan, I believe the prices are set by resolution annually.
So they are, but any recommendations are really appreciated.
Okay, I guess if you could speak to, or Mr. Yanis too, I think it falls under Eddie, but this is the first year y'all are trying to leave the water, y'all left the water in.
Right.
Is that better? Are you guys, is that?
The employee who's getting all the overtime, I'm pretty sure is appreciative of it. So Eddie and I go back and forth. The pool wasn't designed to be drained. Pool was actually designed to have the water left in it all year round. And Eddie and I, like I said, have gone back and forth, so we're trying it this year. One, it will alleviate the addition of needed repairs because it dries out, and so then it cracks. We're gonna see how it works. Heard any complaints? It has been going pretty well, but it also means when we go to open up our pool for the pool season, we can actually open it when we want because it's already.
It's already full of water.
It's just basically waiting for maybe the, showers and things to be cleaned up and stuff like that. It also alleviates the pressure on our water system.
Yes.
That is a large amount of water to put in. They do it in kind of like phases, but it affects our whole water system because it will drain the tank like that. So it's nice to not have to worry about poor Robert don't water, calling the school district don't water, calling Sol Ross don't water because we need to fill our bowl.
Is there a cover?
No, not currently. This is the first year since I've been here, we've left the water in. That has been a discussion, for the future, safety issues.
Right.
But because the pool is sort of fenced in,
Right.
locked, and we do have cameras there, we cover our liabilities.
Did you get interesting things on the camera?
Let's just say, kids don't think there's cameras.
I know.
And so, nothing inappropriate. Versus just when they throw the.
Okay.
Gail gets to dish everything out.
Can I ask just for a little history, why was it drained before?
To be honest, I don't know if Robert can answer that more than I can. I think when the pool was prior, that's just what they did.
Okay.
And in 13, it was remodeled. And they dug up sections and redid the plumbing and all that. Looking at the specifics on it and how the pool's supposed to operate, it's not designed to be drained because that concrete expands and all
Yes.
that. And when it gets drained, I mean, we have cracks every year. So then it's prolonged getting them fixed. And then, of course, with the water side, it is a concrete mining, so there's not like a plastic barrier.
Right.
But the water, of course, will seep through that concrete a little bit. So it has to saturate itself before it will hold the water. So every year we lose, a huge chunk of water because it's resaturating to get itself. And then, of course, the chemical side. I also think it was just the maintenance with them being kind of short staffed. I mean, you do have to have someone out there to make sure the chlorine pumps are working. It doesn't freeze. That was a big fear. In 21, we probably would have been in trouble. Because it would have probably freeze. But it didn't freeze and
I would think not all the way. We might have some on top,
the top,
kind of deep.
we weren't worried about the pool itself, but
Mhm.
like the pipes.
The pipes, yeah.
The pumps and
I get,
because they are underground, in order to fix anything like that, we would have to break the pool.
of course,
That was a grant that helped fix it in 2012-13. So
excellent.
we've been very careful with how we handle it.
Thanks.
And then the only other thing I had on that was in the Civic Center and talking to Eddie said, takes one person about 4 to 5 hours to clean up, to get it ready. But they used to have a team, I guess, that would do it. Maybe him and a couple other people, and now it's one person that, gets the bathrooms ready and everything else. So that does require a little labor on that.
Yes, it does.
And the Brenner does clean that one up at the very end. So kind of like what you guys mentioned earlier, that would make a lot of sense for you. I guess any other items or questions on rental fees there?
Do you have a list of the rental fees?
I'll send these to you, the actual agreements and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
if I could get a copy of that.
Perfect. They do have the prices on them.
Okay, I'll get it over to you.
Okay, and I'll make sure I send it over to you.
Okay.
All right, then we'll move on to the next one, which is park prioritization. So nothing really on that one. We were just gonna wait and see, how we're gonna handle that one. So unless you guys have anything to add. Perfect. Then we'll move into item 5, inventory of playground.
So I sent this over to Gio, if you guys look in the packet. I have not been to all the parks yet, but I just pulled a lot of the information from the master plan. The parks master plan had a lot of the equipment already listed out in it. So I pulled that all out into the sheet. And then I've just been going through and, looking to see like what needs to be repaired, painted, fixed. I guess I have a couple questions about Coconut. They listed the tennis courts and the basketball courts with Alpine ISD. Are those the park's responsibilities to be taken care of or the school? Because that was listed in the master.
Is that a packet there
That's the school. Okay.
under your computer?
So those should not be listed for the park then.
Thank you.
And then I also wanted to ask about the bathrooms, because I know a lot of people have talked about the bathrooms at the park, maybe not always being operational. Do you have anything to say? Like, are the bathrooms usable?
Yeah.
They are? Okay, I don't,
They lock them.
they're locked.
Yeah, we got them because the vandalism, when we had somebody stuck something in there, and those toilets are $900 a toilet.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh,
Yes.
wow. What are the hours of the bathrooms?
The bathrooms are for 8 to 5.
8 to 5.
So, except when the softball season starts. Remember his name, but he's got the key and he. Rusty. But anyway, he's got a key, so he locks them up.
Okay,
And
are
he
those,
makes sure that nobody's messing around. And those kids go in there and they throw rocks in the toilet.
pebbles that,
And they throw around the toilet. And all like that.
are they open on the weekends as well?
No, we could, that's what the porta potties are for. Not unless we got something going on.
Okay,
That they need them. All over.
that makes sense.
Did
Thank
we,
you.
did we ever get cameras out there? Because I had requested
Yeah,
cameras.
top of it, too.
No, yeah, because I requested that from the previous city manager that when they threw the rocks in the toilets, to put cameras there on the outside so you can see who was going and who was coming out.
And that's what needs to be made clear to the public. They're functional, but because of the vandalism.
Right.
I mean, you can't keep
Right.
pouring money down the drain.
Right, literally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do lock them. If the city was ever to decide to bring those back up, there would have to be a security measure in place
Mhm.
because. And it's not tourists that are coming, it's
No.
just kids.
That's local. Well,
We can get, are not.
Megan, does BNS services service the porta potties?
Yes, that's. what we
Okay,
have.
those are great guys. They do a good job. I was just curious because they are very good at what they do.
I do have, sorry, one more thing to add. Someone in the community has 2 baby swings that they wanted to donate to the parks. She was saying that the swings at Medina are looking like a little bit worn. So I have 2 swings to give to you if you want to install them, or we could use them elsewhere as we see fit.
Can you wait till after March 21st?
Yes. What's happening March 21st?
It's cryptic.
So the current city donation policies, everything. goes.
Okay.
Okay.
And so I put together a new policy, utilizing other cities and kind of giving an idea that will actually give like supervisors and directors the ability to take donations up to a certain level. So the reason with the donations, the way we have it set up that way, and everyone gets money, is depending on the amount or the type of donation, it could be an asset. And that's what gets us in trouble is people will take donations and we want them, don't get me wrong. But then they're not recorded in our accounting software as an asset, and that's really important. It's also giving the ability, like Adelina does a great job with getting trees donated. But then there is a labor side of it where the Parks Department is the ones putting them in, having that discussion. So before we take a donation, it's easier to go before council and say, hey, we're taking a donation, this is what it's for, and then everyone's aware. But I'm designing a policy that allows them to make that decision and then has like some guidelines with. Okay, is this gonna affect another department? And then there's certain things that are required that council has to.
Yes, so if I want to get them donated to the city, do I need to come to the city council meeting?
No,
Is that-
so after March 21st, the department heads and directors, if it's under a certain level of funding, then they can do something.
Okay, so I could just give him the 6, okay.
Wonderful.
It will make me feel like better. I know she's gonna do it. Whole procedure. No, because for that reason, there are certain things that there's not really an asset and to have to wait before council and have to go through all of that. It takes time and, you know, Robert and his crew could be like, I could have put those up yesterday. Why do I have to wait 2 weeks? That's where the policy comes into place, is so that it gives them some of that ability. And also we want to make sure we recognize it. The city does get donations, and I think it's important that when we do that, you know, we probably say thank you, whether it's a thank you card or a public display. I think that's important.
Okay, thanks. So anyways, I have not finished going through all of the parks, but I hit most of the big ones, so I should be finishing that before the next meeting.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
At Baines Park,
Yeah.
they're on the corner of Gallego, and I think it's 3rd over here or 4th.
The one by the church.
Yeah,
Okay,
and you're going down Gallego and
Yep.
first time you can turn down that way,
Yep.
and you've got the cluster of equipment there on the corner. I don't think it, there's someone called me, wanted to put a fence around it. And I don't think a fence is warranted there because.
what equipment? You by the stairs?
No, you go down, let's see. The street next to the church, that's 5th Street,
That's it.
and so next would be
Fourth.
4th,
Oh, okay,
right there in the corner of 4th and Gallego.
Yeah.
okay,
There's a cluster of playground equipment.
yes.
And the woman says she felt she needed a fence around it, and I went over there and looked, and I don't think a
Why?
fence is warranted. She said so she could keep her kids from running out in the street. Well, to me, that's her problem.
Well, I feel like they do, I mean, I guess it's not an enclosed fence, but there is a barrier of, what are those bricks or? And I feel like that's enough of a visible barrier, like this is the edge of the park.
Okay, I just wanted to double check with somebody else and look at the park, you know.
Yeah, I
Because don't
I
think
would
it's
recommend
warranted.
putting in a fence.
I told her no, because it's, first off, we don't have the money. And secondly, it's not warranted. It's not, park is not a babysitter, you know?
Right.
Now, at the park, Mr. Rodriguez, Lonnie Rodriguez, I had talked to him previously. And he had seen some kids that almost got run over because the ball would go into Gallego.
Right.
And he says, I'll donate or help build the fence.
Well, that's around the basketball courts, right?
Yeah, well, he wants it built right on parallel to Gallego.
Okay,
And so this way, if the ball gets away from him, it'll have a barrier to stop it.
Because the balls roll on that.
Yeah.
I mean, it does come down that way, but
sure,
I mean, how do you make it aesthetically pleasing?
you don't.
And also that being said, I mean, there's also the road right there. I feel like you can also go into the road and roll down with the fence.
Yeah, down the hill, yeah.
Right,
Would the fence really be, how much would the fence be catching?
exactly.
Versus like, if it's gonna roll into the road and then down, obviously you're avoiding the fence.
It is downhill. Okay.
All of it down.
Exactly.
Megan, do we know the speed limit in that area?
It is.
Is there signage like, I guess I could go check if there's signage like specifically in that area, like slow down.
Yeah,
You know, those
there's-
signs like slow down, kids can play or
I
whatever.
think
Yeah.
a few years back in council, maybe just a couple, but they asked to have the speed limit raised from 20 to 30. Didn't they, on that part of Gallego?
It was 30 to 20, and
Okay,
it's still
because-
there, 20.
Okay, okay,
I don't know what that was.
I think so too, because
No, it's not. It's just right around the park area.
Okay,
It's all, but,
okay.
and that was Councilman Ward 4. She's the one that brought that up.
right, it was because they closed the community center,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
No.
that little yellow sign.
There's those. Do you know that whole sign
Yeah, but the speed limit was turned to 20, and people
Right.
don't pay attention to signs.
No,
You know,
newspaper, plastic.
yeah, we did a study when we did the I-67. And I was asking about the signage, and he says, people don't pay attention to them. You know, speed limits, they totally ignore them, you know, turn here, turn there. They won't do it.
And this is quite an extensive list. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
nice. That's one thing I was gonna ask on this is, this is an extensive list. What would be, can you speak to what council was kind of wanting from this inventory? What would be, what's the end? What is the end product from this, of what they would like to see? Of the inventory.
My inquiry is-
Well,
It's really. What are we providing in each of the parks? Are we providing adequate, playground equipment, age appropriate equipment? Are we overdoing it? Are we too focused? And I know Coconut was kind of an issue for a while because everything was going in Coconut.
right,
And it's like, oh, wait, but we've got the other parts. Are we really addressing resident needs? I look at Legion, who has, there's a playground.
Yeah.
It really is just kind of a field. But really looking at what each of the parks has to offer. Do we need to add? Do we need to subtract? Do we need to stop? And then when we like do Pueblo to Pueblo and we keep adding to our stuff, our inventory, making sure we're not duplicating, making sure we're not providing the same thing because we don't want to replace what is falling apart. It's kind of.
I guess one question to go along with that, like, would you guys want to see like a community survey go out online to see, you know, like, do you think this park, like, which park do you go to? Do you think it has age appropriate things to get community input, or have you gotten a lot of that strategic?
So that is so up my alley with. And getting the community involved, which I really want our community involved because it's not just my, it's not just Robert, it's all of ours.
right.
But also, that actually could be a twofold survey, because it will also tell you the priority of which parks are utilized the most.
Right.
I think it's a great idea, putting a survey out there, because you do have different age groups. We have employees who they focus on Coker Nut because it had age appropriate, you know, levels of playground equipment. Not all of them do, but you have a huge group of guys who play basketball at Layton's. I mean, I know that there's a lot of teenagers who play basketball there. So kind of knowing what they're doing at each of the parks, and kind of tell you, you know what, I don't need to put playground equipment games, I need to ramp up the
Improve
basketball.
Yeah.
Make it a full court, like 2 full courts, or change it up, and maybe we need to change the fencing, focus on that. But then you go back to your prioritization, saying, hey, our community is saying, this is what we need. We've been working really well with the school district. I think if we make this simple enough, we can ask the school district, we can ask the kids. Ask the high schoolers and the middle schoolers and maybe, you know, 4th, 5th, and 6th, 3rd grade.
Sure.
You know, what part do you like? And that will get us some information so that, hey, this isn't, our community is not just about the adults.
Right.
You know, we're asking our own children.
That's a great idea. And I also think you maybe would add a question. Would they be willing to volunteer to help paint or,
Or-
you know, help whatever help needs in the park, you know, needed
Because you got a
to
list
get
of-
the community involved, you know? Let them know what Robert and them go through sometimes. You know?
But of course, not putting them out there, but stay in the life of, do you really know what? It's not just, you know, playing in the park.
No, it's not.
I think that would be great, even doing a volunteer.
Right.
You know, kind of get them in young and intern and,
It only hurts the first time. Volunteer.
Build up your calluses.
but then you also learn more about your skate.
It's
park. And are we really focused on using the skate park, or is it really just a place for people that hang out and sit there? I personally don't know, because I don't skateboard anymore, I gave that up a year ago. But to know, like, do they really use it? Or is it
That'd be
something we
nice,
need
yeah.
to develop into something else?
Was it 4 years ago when we got Saul Ross involved in it?
For the
And we
skate
had the,
park?
yeah, we had the National Guard also, and they went through town painting benches and all that stuff.
5 years.
Has it been 5 years? Oh, that long, huh? Huh? 4, well, that's when they painted the railing of the bridge and all that. You're old. Yeah.
I'm more interested in
Right.
working with the schools, like, hey, can we take 5 minutes to have them?
Yeah, and
But
it
you
just,
just also offer to do all the data and.
You just volunteered yourself.
Whoa.
and you're right on that, because it gives the public ownership of those parks.
Right.
Right.
Okay. And if something starts getting damaged, see vandalism, then immediately they report it. So you know, you gotta bring them in to, you know, to, this
they
is my
care
part,
about it,
yeah.
right?
Right. And is the dog
That's a
park
good
under
idea.
our purview?
That's the city.
That's the city, okay.
The majority just needs repainting. You know.
I was gonna say, there's
Yeah.
not really a ton of stuff that needs to be damaged. It just looks like, you know, some stuff needs paint because it's not just,
I agree, and you know, and get a couple of volunteers and.
right, get a couple of high schoolers over the summer to just go
So
put.
so the high school has a part. I know that they participate in the art.
Yeah.
You have National Honor Societies, you have sports organizations that are invested in doing community service.
Right.
If it's, you know, painting in the park, you know, get some hot dogs, you know, chips and all that, and we make it an event. And we just open it up for people to come.
Right.
I think Robert's probably gonna shoot me after.
Yeah.
It's gonna require a cleanup
I
detail.
was gonna say it's. someone wants to work for it.
Well, we could just.
Are you gonna get?
Each kid will have to provide a $200 deposit.
That's right.
But I was gonna say, we kind of talked about this before with Adelina even, and just expanding what she does with the, you know, the trash pickup, and instead of making it focused on this park. And now that we're getting a better idea of what needs to be done in each park, then you kind of have your your action is to take care of.
Keep Alpine beautiful. One of the things that comes with it, especially with the environmental services, it's also beautification.
Right.
And so we do have an artist community. And, you know, maybe they can come in and provide some of their old paints that, you know, are still usable, but they're, you know, not used.
That's a good idea.
I don't know, but who knows, maybe some kid will be like, yeah, I painted that one spot. That was me.
Don't step on it.
That would be my kid. Did that.
But I do love the idea of the circle.
I do too.
Okay, thank you.
And then tying that back in with the budget, you know, once we have that, we know where those gaps and needs are, then tying it into the budget. I won't see like our task list is something we're doing one year and but it's budgeted next year
Right.
to the fix. So we're always 1 year ahead of what we're.
Right.
kind of-
No, that makes sense.
My evil.
You know, I was gonna say too, just from a tech perspective, that when Coconut walk bike paths and stuff like that, they have poles, you know, just like a nice looking pole there that will count traffic. So you can see how many walkers, bikers and all that other kind of
That'd
stuff
be,
are there.
yes,
And then it's automated and you don't have to, you know, go visualize it and eyeball it.
right.
I guess, any other items on 5 there or? Then we'll move into item F, discussion with city staff regarding procedural items, questions, and recent parks and recreation related items. So basically, any questions for Ms. Natural here?
I do want to say, with it being Little League season, softball season, we are getting a lot of traffic with people securing the fields. So I know Rio DeLuca, who's the administrative assistant, has been working with all of those organizations to get them all scheduled. Which I also know that, and I don't know if it was on Robert's list, it probably was, but they've been actively getting the fields, you know, where we need them to be. And I believe the Little Leagues are gonna assist you with some of the stuff. And so it's good to see the partnerships and that being provided better than usual. Kind of do this. They're mad at us, they're not mad at us, they're mad at us. So that's been really fun to watch, especially as they all come in on the same day and time. But they're working and not arguing, so I'm really appreciative of our community for that and the parks team. Working with them to get the.
Because I heard they were very bad. And I know when I was a kid, I liked to play baseball. I'm sure everybody did. And those fields would be great. It'd be a great draw. And they deserve it.
And it's a big thing, it's a growing thing.
Yes.
It's amazing to see how many teams come out of the registration. So I really am appreciative of everyone playing nice. And then the other thing that I want the Parks Board to kind of think of, so we will have our pool season coming up. And so when you're looking at the rentals and things that are going on, the pool ties to the pavilion in a lot of ways. A lot of people will rent the pool for a pool party and the pavilion. So that they kind of can, you know, run back and forth. They have the field to play in and then go jump in the pool and stuff like that. So the pool is coming up. We will start advertising for lifeguards and hopefully get everyone who needs to be certified. But that is a big undertaking. We currently have 2 people certified, but one is really the primary. He's the one who's been putting in all the overtime. So I really want the Parks Board to be down when it comes to the pool. That's a whole nother beast. And that also has to be mowed and maintained and
When does it open? What do you?
well, we haven't done it yet. That's too far in advance.
So like May, June, like.
Usually Memorial Day, Memorial Day.
We try. We're not always those days. So the pool opening is dependent on lifeguards.
Right.
We do rely on a lot of the high school students and some college students. We've been very fortunate in the past when Sol Ross wasn't open, because we took all the lifeguards. But we want an average of 20 lifeguards
Okay.
because it's a rotating shift. There has to be so many on shift, but they all have to be certified. And so it's getting that arranged with someone local who does our certification. The city does cover that for the individual.
Okay.
And then we get them certified. And then it also ties to the school schedule. So typically we try to open Memorial Weekend, but then we're closed because they're still kind of in school sometimes. They don't get out usually till June, first week, second week, and then we can open. Depending on what lifeguards we get this year, it may change. But because we do have mostly high school students, it makes it a little hard.
Didn't you have like 17 last year?
We started off with 24.
Okay.
They do dwindle. Summer's really hard when they want to go on vacation and their families want to go out of town, but they don't want to leave their child here. Sports gets in the way, especially when you start getting into the two-a-days and the pre-practices before school starts. So our open and end is really
Flexible.
yes. 7-on-7 is a big thing. So we're kind of hoping if we could at least get 20. It allows for that rotation. There are state law requirements when it comes to managing and operating the pool. They can't be out there the whole day or getting canned. So we do have to follow. So if you know of anyone who wants a summer job, throw that out there. We'll give you a whistle.
Wow.
I'm just looking you as a council member. But no, we really do get for Memorial. It's just.
Okay, thank you.
Megan, one question. So when we come up with ideas on these things, for event permitting and everything else like that, how will that move forward? So when we come up with a recommendation, does that go to you and Geo for approval and then to a resolution or?
So I'd like to be part of the discussion process when you guys are formulating something so that for me, it's more to ensure one, what the liability is going to cause. Two, did we do something that, oh wait, that's illegal? Are we following all of, the requirements? We're not asking too much, too little. So as you're going through the discussions, I'm usually on Zoom hiding, but I have no problem being in here with you guys. But having those discussions so that when you're ready to move forward, you're not moving forward necessarily with me and Gio, because we've already had all the discussion. You're moving forward and we're putting that recommendation before council.
Right.
I don't want to delay the process and having that like, well, if you'd been part of it from the beginning, we wouldn't have to wait for you. Being part of it through the whole process, that way we can distribute.
So if we take an easy one and we just say we were going to raise $25 to $50 for the pavilion or something simple, how does that get articulated?
You do a resolution that the Parks Board is recommending to raise the current pavilion rental fees from $25 to $50. You vote on it and then it will automatically come obviously through us and we can take it to council.
Oh, okay.
We don't write the resolution now.
Not the resolution for council. You would need to develop the resolution for your chair or your committee. But we have wonderful employees like Gio and myself who have no problem sharing templates with you.
Oh,
Where you just kind of plug in the information.
excellent.
And if it's something more complex, say with like what Ben's dealing with, on something, does all that fit within one resolution?
So it can. It really depends on how you want to proceed. So I've learned we're really bad about putting the cart before the horse. Like, let's pass the ordinance. Oh, and then remember, we have to have all these permits and applications and things for people to do. So putting it all together and passing it as one big piece is a little bit easier. It's a little more time consuming because you have to think, okay, well, I want my application like this, or who's gonna sign off and things like that. But when you put it all together, taking it before council is a little bit easier because it's like, well, we're gonna do this first and then this. We're gonna come back and do this and then this. A prime example is like our noise ordinance. So we had it passed, but it's, well, where's the application? Where's the permit? And so that hasn't been taken to council. So we've kind of delayed our process. So like anything that you guys put together, anything Ben thinks of, we can help formulate it and put it on paper with different things that we've done in the past other cities. If anyone has Adobe Pro, I love taking PDFs from other cities and changing onto the outline.
Yeah.
Other cities have been doing this a lot longer.
No kidding.
And change it. So we do that a lot. But your resolution would just look like, very simple. See the attached kind of deal with the Parks Board is recommending that we change ordinance, blah, blah, blah. Gio also works with you actually changing the ordinance yourself. And I think he's done a presentation with you guys, he may or may not have, where he actually will go in and show you how here's the Word version of it, because you can copy it in Word from our website. And how you can go in and change it so that you actually do it and you can take it straight to council.
So I guess from my viewpoint for the board here, my thinking is when we start getting more towards the terminal end of some of these things or recommendations, we just present those to each other, kind of get a consensus on that, you know, like if I say 25 to 50, I definitely want y'all's opinion so that you guys, you know, say I'm crazy. And then when we reach a consensus on that, then we'll work individually with Megan and Gio to kind of actually craft that resolution. So it's not on each
I
other.
think so. That's great. And it's a good kind of crazy.
That's kind of crazy.
Well, I really just want you guys to realize that it's a partnership. You guys are doing a lot of the heavy lifting and we can definitely help with the paperwork.
That's why my Jack.
Then, I guess if there's no other questions on that for Megan.
No.
Then we'll move into number 6, action items, nothing as an action item. We'll move into 7 board member comments, starting with Karen.
It's a very good meeting. I thank TK for her inventory. That was very good. Robert, I thank you for your list. You work very hard and thank you. I very appreciate what you do. That's it.
Yeah, nothing different. Thanks to the Parks crew for keeping everything going. Spring's around the corner.
Don't say that.
You know,
A little salt, a little pepper, right?
I'll just read real quick a email from someone that somebody sent me an email on the about the baseball fields and stuff. It was writing this email just to voice some concerns as well as considerations for our local baseball and softball parks. I'm born and raised from Alpine. I've always taken pride in our sports. I've been a youth softball coach for the past 13 years with about 20 teams in both baseball and softball together. Our biggest issue is finding fields to practice. I've seen online that Val Lujan Field has been reserved for many months, sometimes a year, and not all the ones who reserve it use it. Manuel Payne Field is only used for games only, and even though it does need repairs in the outfield due to gopher holes, it's the best field. We cannot use it for practice. It's usually used for 8U, 10U, 12U, and now a 14U division travel team. These are older divisions and will be well kept by players and coaches after practices and games. The next field to it is also a really good field to use, but only for games. I'm thinking that's international. The fields on the south side down Avenue F are another option. Some did get dragged and cleaned, but they're not as good as the others previously mentioned. We're grateful and thankful for what we have and to work with, but if we get a little more leniency and able to use the better fields for practice. Let's have these kids continue to play and keep them out there having fun, not on the streets getting in trouble. So I think it's just kind of an issue with the scheduling on those and can we open them up more? So that was that. And then
So can I ask a quick question? So what's the reasoning why don't they practice on those fields? Is it just because it tears up the grass? Or
Payne and International.
It is too much wear and tear on the grass and, you know, you're gonna practice there, when are they gonna get to play there? I mean, I know that a lot of people like to practice. Green, but. Have that.
How much work are those to maintain those 2 fields?
It's really more like, I don't know, gopher holes and just water and weedy. The manual paint is on a sprinkler system, but the other one, the international, you gotta turn on manually. But you know, weedy and mow and.
I believe, Robert, 2017 was the last year we seeded, right? And that was a little over 10 grand.
Really?
And that was.
But you don't want to kill the grass. Practice.
Look, I mean, we got 4 fields on Far Rock on their property,
On east,
and then we got 2 on Gallego at Pueblo. But once we start, you know, going into that, we're gonna have to do somewhere else. And they said it was fine. Look, the schools, they let you use their practice fields, the football fields, and some over here by the middle school. There's about 3 there. In elementary, yeah.
And then you have the private one out by the.
Oh, yeah, the highway department.
If they're playing in those areas, why does that grass not get destroyed?
They're
I
not
think they're
as
just
well maintained. They don't have glass to speak of.
You can buy them, Darren.
Dirt ball.
What became the Centennial?
To do what?
Centennial Field for using it?
It's ready.
It's ready? Okay, because they're supposed to have a water fountain in there. The water fountain was supposed to be moved, new benches and everything, bleachers. Nope.
Let's go back to work.
I just thought.
Can
I'd throw that
Centennial
in
be
there.
used for practice?
Oh, no, one of the comment I was gonna make was just, we're still working on the dog park improvements.
Oh, cool.
So Printco printed these out,
Oh, wow.
pro bono, and I just wanted to thank them. And we'll start putting these out around some local businesses and maybe try to hit that spring break crowd to QR code over to start raising some money.
No kidding. Sounds great.
Just to let y'all know that project hadn't died.
Good.
I was actually just thinking about that when you brought up the dog parks earlier.
Greatly needed.
It's a really wonderful project.
Yep.
I guess, Mr. Ramos, any?
Yeah, it was a great meeting, you know, there's a lot of material that was covered, a lot of positive material. Also, Robert, thank you for your input and the work you do out there in the fields. But I was really surprised how much has been accomplished with the Parks Department and what they're doing. And I've seen the great improvements through the years. You know, equipment at Coconut, Baines and Medina and all that. And I drive around a lot. And I'm not that I'm bored or anything, but I watch the usage on it. And there's a lot of kids, especially the smaller kids, I tend to see a lot at Medina Park. And middle-aged kids at Baines, and then the bigger kids over at Coconut. And an older crowd at the Legion Park, just walking around, sitting down and relaxing and whatnot. But y'all have done a great job. City appreciates that. And we do need to get the city more, the public more involved in this. It's their city. You make it what what you want it to be. And so I want to applaud you all for doing that. And Councilman, thank you for nominating me for the position. Megan, thank you for being here.
Comments, TK?
No, thank you for all of your work. I know it's a lot of work, and thank you also for being here. And thank you, guys.
Okay, quick question, Megan, do we need a motion to adjourn typically or no?
Yes.
Now, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Any second?
I second.
And this meeting is adjourned.
No discussion on it.
And I'm sorry, TK, I called you KT earlier.
That's fine. You call me anything you want.
Hmm.
Whatever you prefer.
Megan, do you mind printing the, thank you.
Can I keep my little sticker?
We get funding on
Okay,
that.
don't worry, I'll say
Help now, Fed.
Appreciate it.
So